Well, the One Chicago family had a busy year as the teams on Med, Fire, and PD took on everything from the pandemic to changes in policing. So, what's in store for the season finales? We've got Epatha Merkerson from Chicago Med and Jason Beghe from Chicago PD here to spill all the details. Hi, guys.
Nice
Right.
to see you.
Yeah, nice
Nice to see you too. I will, as I do with almost every interview I do with someone from one of these shows, I will warn you that I am a diehard fan, but I promise to stay in my journalism mode and not, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but
do one
secrets are welcome here.
You can do one
Okay.
girl thing.
Yeah, but secrets are welcome here. You know
I
what I
Okay.
mean? I like to think that Dick Wolf, because I am such a diehard fan, wants me to know, you know, everything, everything.
Yes, yes.
But let me start with asking you guys, Epatha, and I'll start with you. You both know the virus devastated the world, and there was so much loss of life and of livelihood. And the entertainment industry was really hard hit. As an actor who is part of this team that makes these shows possible, how does it feel to have gotten through a season in the middle of a pandemic?
It's pretty extraordinary. But when we started, it was so clear how they were going to handle this thing. And I'm over 65. I'm diabetic, and having conversations with the producers before we started, it was you can Zoom your first three episodes if you'd like.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so it prepared me to go into it on the fourth episode. In fact, I asked if I could come in for the fourth episode because it was so weird working alone like that. But the protocols have been fabulous. They really have.
Yeah. Jason, what about for you? Did getting through this season have special meaning for you?
Well, there were obviously the virus hit us all physically, but I think emotionally and mentally it took a toll too. And I stayed in touch. I'm one of the few people that the quarantining didn't really change that much for me because I'm kind of a hermit anyway. And but people were going through a lot, and I was very happy that everybody was able to go back to work. And we were really, really lucky we got in there early. And I mean, our show is, I think, the only one that never shut down. We had delays and things, and there were definitely people who got the virus, but just grateful that we got the opportunity, to work. And I'm proud of the whole organization about how we handled this. It's a lot of things that we had to put in place, but everybody follows them. And it's difficult to rehearse with a mask. It's difficult to light with a mask, but it's my excuse. Like, if I don't look good, it's because they lit me without a mask. But so there's always a payoff. But we're grateful and excited to come back next season, and hopefully things will be better. It looks like things may be on the upswing. So
But cheers to NBC Universal and to our production companies, all three, for making us all feel safe. I mean,
Yeah.
kudos to them. They really did.
But I mean, we really, I mean, anybody, safety first.
Yep.
And that meant a lot. And there were some people who were really scared, and they were taken care of, and everybody was allowed to be honest and open. And I think it, ultimately, from that adversity, I think it brought us closer together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, forgive me. I have to mute when my dog starts barking. Yeah, it did. And I wondered, for the two of you, and Epatha, I'll start with you on this one. If you realized, because especially last year, right, when all of this started, and as most people were, spending most of their time at home, entertainment right, through our television really kind of became a lifeline for a lot of people. It was so important. And then, once the fall came and we were figuring out what shows were coming back, and it was like, with you guys, it was, whenever there was a new episode, there was like this excitement from those of us that were real fans. I wonder if you realize from your end, I mean, you're not doctors in real life, you're not police officers in real life, but there is an importance to what you do through the art that you bring. Did you guys get that?
Look, I think television at its best, it entertains as well as teaches. And
Mm,
so there's a responsibility there. And I think that on all three shows, that responsibility is really taken seriously. And when we have certain medical issues that happen on the show, we try as best we can to explain what it is within the movement of the story. But it's really important that those things are dealt with truthfully, because so many people get their news and what they know and things they think from television. So we're not just there to entertain. I
yeah.
think with every show, there's some lesson that the characters go through that the audience can understand.
Yeah. And Jason,
Yeah.
what do you hope people take away from PD at answering the same question?
I mean, one of the mantras of our show that we try to stick to is that everybody is right.
Mhm.
It's not just good guys and bad guys. It's just guys. And there's a reason a guy does bad things, and there's a reason a guy does good things. And sometimes good guys do bad things and bad guys do good things. And that we're all people. And particularly after all the stuff that went on with policing this summer, we really took it as a opportunity. It was, in the true sense of the word, awesome in some ways,
Hmm.
which is fear. There's a huge responsibility after George Floyd and all the other stuff. And, luckily our show, unlike a lot of other cop shows, it had already been delving into violence in policing and race issues in policing. And, we started the season. We had ended the previous season with a huge racial conflict within the police department that Leroyce Hawkins, who plays Atwater, really, I mean, he just ripped off a piece of bread and got all the gravy off the plate. And it was a wonderful kind of a script as well. So we're all, took this as a moment. Um, and there's a lot of opinions out there.
Yeah.
And so hopefully what we try to do, we may have our own personal opinions, but we try to present everyone's opinion so that the audience can find what their opinion is,
Mhm.
and I think I'm very proud of what we've done this season. And in that line, as we go toward the finale, it's exactly that that we're addressing. So it's I feel like we had a great opportunity, and I can say that we've done our best, and hopefully, people got something out of it more than, as Epatha says, just entertainment. Whether it was just subconsciously or consciously, we wanted to provoke, your own critical thought, not our critical thought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it did. It spoke volumes in the episode that we saw where Voight, you know, the expectation, right, was for him to, get the information out of this particular suspect. And, instead he went out and beat a car. And it was this whole conversation amongst these characters about how to handle that. That for me as a fan watching this show throughout was a huge moment. It was a huge shift that he made that decision. And I think there are lessons in what the audience got to take away from that. So yeah, I'm glad you touched on that, Jason. Oh, go ahead.
I think that's the hallmark of Dick Wolf shows, really. it's not just to entertain. It really is to provoke thought. One of the things that I love that happens, and I think it even happens on Zoom too, where people start talking about the episodes that they saw. I really believe that's the hallmark of Dick Wolf shows, to really get people to think, as Jason was saying, critical thinking about subject matter.
You know what? And that is what entertainment really is. I mean,
Yeah.
because if you don't, like as an actor, we want to like show all this emotion, but you always have to remember, really, it's not what I'm feeling that matters. It's what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And that is, by critical thought is what's entertaining. You
Mhm.
want them to be engaged and because the other one, if they're just sitting there being entertained, they tend to get up and eat popcorn and talk to their friends. But if they're involved,
Yes,
Yeah.
that's entertainment.
yes.
Right.
So they go hand in hand, and that's part of the reason why Dick is mildly successful.
Well, I mean, it's not just the writing, but it's the portrayal of these characters. And I want to dig into that a little bit. That does pull you in. I mean, Epatha, Sharon, I mean, the situation, with the decisions that she has to make, right? You're so pulled into that. And even with the personal decisions, I still can't get over the fact that she forgave her ex-husband. But we can talk about that on a whole other show. We don't have to get into that right now. Like, I'm not on board with that, but okay. She has to make her own decision. But then I
Right.
love seeing the dynamic between her and her son this season. And I wonder for you, where you would like to see, well, no, two questions. What
Mhm.
are we going to see in the finale from Sharon? What can you give us? What nuggets can you give us? And then two, what would you like to see with Sharon next season? And you can feel free to say a new love interest.
Of course, a new love interest.
Void is single.
She's a
Now, I would love that.
vibrant woman, right? But
Yes.
there's for Goodwin, it's always about the running of the hospital. That's the most important thing. How are we running this hospital? How are we servicing the community that uses this hospital? What are the best techniques that we can do with medicine? With Dr. Charles dealing with all the mental health issues that happen within the ED. So that's her thing. So Will is always an issue with Goodwin because he always has he's overzealous sometimes, very true to what he is in terms of medicine and trying to help people, but sometimes a little overzealous. Ethan always to, the letter, the law of the letter. Dean Archer, the person who's come in now that he's brought into this universe, is going to challenge him some. So there are all these things that are happening with Maggie and her daughter. What's going to happen with them? There definitely some interesting things coming along. Vanessa will be offered a position at the hospital. So there are all these things that are going to work to for people to come back next season to see. Natalie, what happens with her mom. Each person has a very focused, sort of real life thing happening with them, and how they'll deal with them will come up in some of the writing that you've seen through this season and will push us into next season.
But is Sharon, is she doing yoga, or like what is keeping her from just losing after everything? Like what is it?
Well, maybe next season we'll see her at home and we might understand why those things happen. Because that's one of the things we haven't seen is Goodwin at home, Goodwin outside of the ED. So maybe that's something we can look forward to next season.
Yeah. Jason with Voight, he is just so steady, right? With everything that he's been through, the people in his life that he loves, and he's like a father figure, to all of these detectives on the squad. But I mean, you know, how exciting has it been for you, or how rewarding has it been for you to play this character, not only over the years, but particularly this particular season, and with that transition that we talked about?
You know, art imitates life, or life imitates art. I think. I'm not sure which is true, but you know, I've been lucky enough to have my own son come and live with me this year, and which has affected me more than I knew it would be huge. But I mean, I couldn't anticipate, you know, the kind of dilation of my whole being and heart, just because I've been away for 9 years, and you know, obviously I would visit, but weekends and summers are not the same as a day to day, and I've noticed that it's affected my relationships with everybody in my life, including at work, which affects the characters' relationships. And I think that that it's been very rewarding for me. And it's funny how that the writers tend to kind of lean into it, whether by coincidence or not. I don't know, but it's it's been a very interesting thing. But thankfully, so far, with a teenage son at home, I have not had the kind of conflict that I do have with my children at work. And but you know, that's also good, that from that conflict, you know, it's like, you know, two opposing point of views. And even with Sam Miller, this other character, you know, it's creating a synthesis. You know, there was a thesis, antithesis, and we're getting into this synthesis, and we're finding a new balance, because it's a whole new world for policing, and we're all being forced to change really fast. And so there's going to be frayed edges, and there's going to be conflict. And I think as we go into the finale, it gets more and more and more intense. And whether or not Voight can hang on, you know, to the resisting his kind of natural impulses, because he has, as we know, you know, a deeply savage, uh, feral, kind of animalistic impulse that is very, very real, and is, you know, been part of his success and survival. But it's unacceptable at this point, and how he handles it is a big point. And as we go into the finale, that's really what it's about. And you know, there's by the book and there's off the rails, and neither one is necessarily going to get what we all want. And I think it's going to be. I mean, I can tell you, just, you know, if I'm going on too long, you can always just say shut up. But my our final script is probably I've looked at it, and I've been doing this for some years. I think it's the most exciting episode of television I've ever read. So it's ours to screw up. I mean, and but there's the potential there for something extremely exciting to watch and thought provoking. And there will definitely be a lot of interest in. I'm interested to know what happens next season, because we all are going to be bloodied. You know, this is we all. It costs every character a lot, and it's not a big bow and a resolution. It's more frayed edges, you know, and so I'm excited and proud and challenged, and
My heart is racing just to know. I mean, I can't wait to see it. But it is amazing to me how each of these shows, particularly when it comes to finales, how the writers come up with such great material. It just blows it. I mean, and Jason, you just talked about it a little bit when you see it on the pages. I mean, do you all get an opportunity? Okay, after the finale, the season wraps up with your characters particularly. Do you just kind of, take a break for the season, or do you kind of talk a little bit about next season and do you guys get to weigh in on your characters and
What's
what happened?
interesting,
We
Jason told me about 3 years ago, go to LA and talk to the writers.
Huh.
Jason that told me to do that. And I went out. Of course, I couldn't go last year, but the year before, I went out. And I thank Jason for that because you sit in the room with all the writers. You talk about what you liked in the season, what you'd like to see changed in the season.
Huh.
You talk about ideas, and they're all there. It was like a light bulb, when he said, have you been out to LA? Did it sound like you, Jason? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, the best thing to do is talk to the writers. And I said, wow. And I did it. And I think every time I think of it, I thank him in my heart, in my head for that, because it was a simple suggestion, but it made a world of difference.
Yeah.
The conversation about Goodwin and Bert, her husband. We talked about that. How can we deal with that? That was sort of left, in the fringes somewhere.
Yeah.
Her children, are we going to see her? All these things we were able to talk about. And so, yeah, you can be more involved than just in the season, thanks to Jason.
I love that. Look
yeah.
at you, Jason, giving great advice. I love this. This was a game changer for her. Who
Yeah.
knew you were like the counselor on One Chicago?
Oh, I wouldn't know I'm a counselor. But I'll tell you this. The other thing is, going back to that point about being engaged and having, the more you're engaged, and it's fun, if the character isn't growing and you're not engaged, it's not gonna be as good.
Yeah.
And so there's things that you might want to, there's things you can put in a character that are things you want to work on in yourself. Sometimes there are weeks when I spend more time being Voight than I do Jason. And so it's a relationship, and I learn from him and he learns from me. And we both hopefully grow, and we both have hard times, and we help ourselves through it. And playing Voight can be useful for me, whether it's just an escape like entertainment, or I'm working through my own things, and that keeps me engaged. It keeps him alive. It keeps it surprising, and I think it adds something that's a je ne sais quoi that hopefully makes it interesting for the audience, because if you're not changing and growing, you're dying. And nobody that then the show's over. We all have to keep moving, and it always has to be improving. Sometimes you plie, sometimes you jette, but you're moving.
You better hit him with the dance moves, Jason. Okay, look at that. He's like, no.
This is ballet. You better give us ballet references. I love it.
Yeah. But, you don't want to see me do ballet.
Now, yes, I do. Yes, I do. But I do have to add that was very well said, Jason. But I do have to ask you, is Jason nearly as cool as Voight? I mean, is Voight like the coolest character on the planet? I mean, we could have a drinking game where no one would take a drink if we counted the times that he smiled. I mean, just the coolest guy on TV.
I didn't realize it was cool not to smile.
Listen, he's just got this brooding kind of, this energy. You know what I mean? It's just no nonsense, get it done. Is there any part of Voight in you? Like, is that how you show up at the grocery store, or?
I think I love my job. I
Yeah.
really love my job,
Yeah.
and I love the people I work with. I mean, I really love them.
Yeah, man.
But we have I guess, I mean, I like to, when I go to work, I like to work. So not dissimilar to Voight at work, I'm very focused. We have a lot of fun, but we make sure that the star of the show is the show. And we we have a responsibility that we enjoy. It's not a bad responsibility, like, oh God, I gotta. We're gonna. So we're serious about our work. Like Voight, I mean, I'm not like Voight in between takes, but I can be. And you ask if there's Voight. I mean, all of Voight comes from me. I wouldn't say I am Voight. It's something that comes from me, and there are things that I discover about myself through him. So that's the best I can do for that answer.
I love that. Okay, well, unfortunately, we have to go. We have to wrap it up. I could talk to you guys all day because I love your characters. I love the shows so much. So thank you for your time. And I want to let everybody know that you can catch the season finale of Chicago Med and Chicago PD Wednesday, May 26th, starting
And
at
Chicago Fire.
yeah,
It's
and
one
Chicago Fire.
Chicago.
Yes, it's one Chicago. Wednesday, May 26th, starting at 8 p.m. right here on NBC. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
All right, be well, you guys.
Ciao.